finance meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bale,
Here.
Mr. Copeland, Mrs. Showerman.
Here.
Oh, got him by phone here. Mr. Scatella,
Here.
Mr. Wertz,
Here.
Mr. Winarski, Chairman Drexel.
Here. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment? You can step forward,
Right now?
yeah. Just make sure you state your name and where you're from,
Okay. My name's, do I come up there or just stand right here?
wherever you're
Okay.
comfortable.
My name is Minister Valerie Perkins from Greater Calvary Full Gospel Baptist Church. Members of the Erie County Council, I speak today as a member of the clergy on behalf of Pastor Colin G. Gavin of Greater Calvary Full Gospel Baptist Church Social Justice Ministry, and in solidarity with faith leaders and cross traditions who share a commitment to human dignity and justice. Across our sacred text, we are reminded that how we treat the stranger, the vulnerable, and those without power is a moral measure of who we are as a community. In the Hebrew scriptures, we hear the command, "You shall not oppress the stranger, for you know the heart of the stranger." In the Christian tradition, Jesus teaches that whatever you do to the least of these, you do unto me. In Islam, the Quran reminds us that righteousness includes care for the wayfarer and the oppressed. These teachings converge on a single truth. Human dignity is not conditional. For these reasons, we strongly support this resolution calling for the suspension of Erie County's participation in civil immigration detention at the Erie County Prison and for the removal of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement as an authorized user under the county's detention agreement. Civil immigration detention is not criminal punishment, yet it often results in prolonged confinement, limited access to legal counsel, frequent transfers, and deep separation from family and community. Such practices raise serious moral and due process concerns. As the prophet Micah reminds us, we are called to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. Detention practices that erode fairness and compassion fall short of that call. We are also troubled by the framing of immigration detention as a source of revenue. From a faith perspective, liberty must never be treated as a commodity. As Proverbs teaches, better is little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. County facilities should not be used in ways that compromise ethical responsibility for financial gain. This resolution reflects thoughtful leadership that lawfully distinguishes between federal criminal detention obligations and voluntary participation in civil immigration detention. Other counties have taken similar steps, demonstrating that such action is both responsible and permissible. As clergy, we urge you to adopt this resolution. In doing so, Erie County affirms its commitment to justice, transparency, community trust, and the inherent worth of every person. Thank you for your service and for allowing us to offer this moral witness. Respectfully, Elder Colin G. Gavin, Pastor, on behalf of the Social Justice Ministry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment? Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment? Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment? Right, seeing there is none. Move on to the finance agenda. Ordinance number 1, 2026, ordinance to amend Article 2, Section 7 of the Administrative Code of Erie County, the Erie County Public Library. Anyone wish to speak on that or no discussion?
This only pertains to the lawsuit, correct? Because we'll still have, when we go over the administrative code, we still have to go over the library.
Yes, that is correct, right?
That's correct. This is separate and apart from the committee that will be going through the entire administrative code. There may in fact be additional changes that may be made by that committee, but this is just being offered as an amendment to the library portions of the administrative code to incorporate the promises that were made under the settlement agreement with Canon and others, and which were incorporated into a court order. So that's what it does.
Okay. Number two, ordinance 2026 gaming fund budget supplemental appropriation of $249,990 for participation in the Erie 250 Community Grant Program. Dr. Wood, you're here to speak about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I brought some information for you in this red packet, if you want to open it with me now. There's two documents in here. On the left, you'll see a copy of our EMS report that we recently published. It's $4.9 million we've invested in emergency management services all across Erie County. It's detailed. There's testimonials, there's some pictures in there. Just a nice piece for you to take with you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to follow up. But I'm really here today to talk about what's in this other sleeve right here. Basically, the semi-sesquicentennial of the country, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There are statewide activities going on, and there are local activities going on. No one is coordinating the local activities. No one is funding the local activities. The ECRA Board of Directors took a look at that and said, let's put $250,000 behind funding some of these local activities. We do need to celebrate the country in the year 2026. Coming here today to ask you to take a look at these guidelines, like I emailed before. Discussion is open. These are draft guidelines. If there's some feedback you want to provide to them, the general idea is to provide $225,000 for the 9 lead assets, Erie County, to do bigger events, and another $275,000 for smaller historical societies and community booster type groups all across Erie County to make sure that we're all participating in the celebration in our own kind of way, countywide activities as well as local community-based activities. You'll see a set of ECRA grant guidelines, pretty standard set of guidelines, how we do things. Talk about the program goals. What is the purpose of these funds? It'll be eligible and ineligible activities. And we'll talk about an application approval process. Typically what ECRA does when we have a new program, we have a set of guidelines like this. We bounce it off and we be applying for the funds, and decision makers like yourself, we get feedback. Then we finalize these guidelines, we publish them, we make sure that the community knows that they're available. We'll hold online Zooms if necessary with folks to go over the details of how to apply. But most folks get it at this point. ECRA's been around for almost 20 years now. There's an online grant making system, and then a committee board will review these grant guidelines and vote on what should be funded. So we're here today to ask for you to match the $250,000 that ECRA is moving forward for the board of directors to put forth. It should be administered through this grant program. So let me stop there and take any questions.
I guess I'll start. We had discussed this during budget, and it was 7-0 that we would not include it in our budget or put money for it.
Mr. Chair. If I could address that, because we did talk about this during the budget, and one of the things that there was unanimous opinion around was there was a line item that was set aside, but not a specific plan as to how the money would be awarded and to who. I've been a big proponent for this grant application being written up, or the guidelines that Perry wrote up, because I do think there's a space for us to participate in patriotic events, and to have a way that it's awarded in an open process, accessible to the public. And I really felt that the discontent around that budget line item centered around the fact that there was no plan that had been developed. And I think that we see a plan before us.
My understanding when we were looking at this in budget at the time was we were trying to set that money aside in order to ship it off to Philadelphia for a celebration. There was not really any discussion about anything local. So back what Mr. Copeland's saying, it's like without a plan, like, it's different. So in front of us now, and, you know, all of us have the opportunity to take a look at this. Decide whether or not, you know, it's something we wanna support now that it has a plan and. Is a little more vetted out, we ask questions and contribute to it, and, I don't know. That's just the way I'm looking at this moving forward, but. I did not believe that it was really much, it was just a line item that was created before. I didn't wanna give money for a celebration somewhere else, like, I wanted to do something here, you know, there were other things that I even brought up that we could have. You know, maybe done like privately with people like and locally like that, you know, different ideas, but. This is an open forum for even those entities to, you know, reach out and. You know, apply for, work together and, you know, I think it's an important thing, I just. I didn't appreciate if it wasn't a plan before, but. Anyone else?
Dr. Wood, you said that nobody was coordinating local activities, that's what you stated?
There's a committee that exists that coordinates with the state on activities, but they're not necessarily, may be a clearinghouse for local activities, but they're not necessarily coordinating activities, nor are they fundraising, which is even the more important point. That local committee, while they're doing good work, does not raise that fee for the community to make sure the celebration. happens.
I know, so there is a committee, there was a person that was put in charge of that was assigned by the county, correct? The person that's in charge of that,
You mean
Steve
we were
Oler from Harbor
appointed?
Creek,
Is that what you're referring to
Well, I
the committee
think that-
Davis appointed? I think.
I think
think that's what
so,
you're referring to.
yes, and then I think that the current administration, am I correct that? You were content and left that person in that position with the America 250? Is that a true statement?
Well, we've only had a conversation with that person once.
Well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because. we're
Mr.
talking-
Chair, can I clarify a little bit for Charlie?
No, because I'm talking right now, thanks.
Okay.
I'm confused. I mean, it's a county. We're having activities for the county. It's a position appointed by the county. Was appointed, yes, by the previous administration, but to my knowledge, blessed off on by the current administration. I don't know why we would need to go through ECRA when we could put those funds aside to the committee and let them decide proper events here in Erie County through historical societies and municipalities, and I don't know why we need to source it out when I think we can handle it ourselves.
Oh, I would challenge that assertion about the other committee, not that they're not intent to do good work, but it is not a committee that was comprised to dole out funds, to assign funds to other organizations or those participating in the group. They've had opportunities to raise money for themselves and didn't see that as their charge, obviously, as they've raised none. And here we have an organization who is public, transparent, and administers these types of grants for events and projects year round. It would make sense that if we wanted to ensure good stewardship of this money, that we would put it with someone who has that process in place. And this is no shade toward that committee or any of the members of that committee. It's just that there's a lot of folks in there who receive funds throughout the year. There's not a lot of folks in there who are experienced at reviewing and executing this grant request.
It also allows for that organization to control how that money is spent with regards to how activities are planned for this celebration. We were talking about $500,000 to throw a party basically in Erie County with taxpayer dollars. I mean, I've got a little bit of a problem with that. I could see setting aside some specifically for local events, you know, but I have a problem with that. And again, I think that there was a person initially in charge of this. I believe the person that was the Jefferson was initially in charge of this and stepped down or whatever, but you know, I fear that this is a way to, you know, be in control of those, and I think that we should be in control of those, not the organization. I think we can restrict those funds to, again, entities throughout the county, if Northeast Historical Society or the LaBeouf Historical Society or any of these other organizations, I think we can dole that out and in a much smaller amount than $250. I think probably in the arena, $100,000 if we're gonna spend it, that we could put aside for those events to make sure that it is spread throughout the entire county.
Mr. Chair,
Just,
Hold up, Mr. Copeland, come on. Mr.
Yes.
Copeland?
so I've been attending the meetings that Steve Oler has been hosting because I've had a lot of interest in what's going on. And when the state commission was first established, it seemed like it was a place where local entities could pull down funding, submit for grants to be able to host their events, and that grant funding has never materialized. And instead, it seems that the grant funding is being pulled up for 6 specific concert events. And so in the meetings that I've been in attendance at, the question that all the stakeholders have had is where do we go for funding? And they, they asked Representative Bana in that meeting, like, where do we go? And it's not the legislature. And so this is not in any way trying to separate, take away from that committee. Steve Oler has been keenly aware of the funding that Dr. Wood has been talking about, and also the match that we would add to grow the pot. This is not like an either or, money goes here or there. The big thing that we wanted to do with ECRA had to do with making sure that the money stayed local with local organizations, and that would be touching most, if not all, the same organizations that Oler is working with, in working together. I wish that there was a greater umbrella that was directing these initiatives and making sure that everybody was moving in the same direction. That is not what the county committee is. It has mostly been a group of organizations working to elevate each other to let everyone know what they are doing. But it's not like they have a committee that's working on sanitation, another committee working on security, and working to elevate everyone's events. These are disparate groups that are looking around trying to figure out where they get funding from. And all I know is I am a very patriotic person. I think we should celebrate. And if we're going to celebrate, we should keep those dollars local.
Just to, I keep hearing that we had a county representative on this board. I received a call in early July from the state representatives that says they've been having meetings and the county has not been represented. Who should have been the county executive, or who he decided to put in. So he said,
That was the original person that was.
I don't even
He
know
did
who it
not,
was.
and then,
The county executive,
then-
the old county executive dropped the ball. He wasn't going to meetings. The state representative says, you should go. And I was not gonna overstep my bound and do something that the administrator should have done. Now you have a new administrator in, and I think Rock called me about, what was it, 6-8 weeks ago, and he said he was gonna go to the 250 meeting, see what was going on, and the guy's been attending those meetings. I don't think it's a mistake to give money to whatever we're doing around here on that day. I then said against sending money to Philadelphia, I could care less about that. They're not gonna send us money. And am I not mistaken, this is gaming money? The gaming money that the state gets, Owen?
So this was supposed to come out, the line item is under the unrestricted gaming fund. It's currently sitting at $10 as available for transfer. It was supposed to originally under the unrestricted gaming fund, line.
So we're not dipping into taxpayers.
No, it would be out the gaming.
We're hitting the gaming fund twice. Because that's where ECRA's money comes from as well, so we're tapping into the same funds twice.
Well, they have their share of gaming revenue, and we have our share, so.
Right, it's all
Doesn't matter
gaming,
what-
it's all gaming revenue.
Going, I believe, toward what the expectation is for gaming revenues to support the communities to do things that they do, whether it be events or infrastructure or something else.
That's funny. I thought it was supposed to be a relief for taxpayers.
And it is in the communities that are served by the casino.
By throwing a party or series of parties that spends $500,000 of their money. I don't
Erie
think that's a
County
relief
received
to the
$18
taxpayers.
million.
Well, it's not taxpayer dollars.
It's
And-
relief
and
for
if-
the taxpayers.
If any of these other organizations are going to participate in a community, let's say, for example, there's a historical society in one of our municipalities, let's say Quarry, for example, wants to do this. You don't think that they'll go to Quarry and ask for money? And then Quarry will be taking taxpayer dollars to try to help support the events of the Quarry Historical Society. Whereas now we can use the gaming revenues, which would be revenue neutral, and go back into these communities all across Erie
And I'm
County
saying-
without it impacting taxpayer interest.
Then we should guarantee that that's what's going to happen, and restrict it to those municipalities and those historical groups with our share of the fund.
I mean, who else to receive the money going toward besides community interest groups and historical societies and folks who are interested?
Maybe municipal government, like Lawrence Park, for example, does fireworks.
But we can restrict it to that, so that there's not any debate over it. We can say that that money is specifically set aside from the county to those municipalities and those historical organizations. Why can't we do that?
Because it's not been done before.
But we can, correct? We can
Yeah.
restrict it.
You're saying you want to start a grant application process?
No, I'm saying that we could give you the
After it
money, but
exists.
the money would be restricted to only be spent through those municipalities and historical, so that each one of those will have a chance at it. So there's no.
I mean, I.
Okay, the Gaming Revenue Authority has been doing just what Charlie suggested for 20 years. And they've done it better than any other grant organization in town. Why would we not trust and provide the gaming authority with the discretion to continue to distribute the monies out according to the needs of all of the grantee applicants?
We're going to let them distribute it just at our
And we've never-
parameters.
Rather than restrict, and I don't think we have the authority to restrict the gaming authority as to how they're gonna spend their monies. The gaming authority, once we give it to them, has the discretion to follow their own guidelines to make those distributions, which have always included outside municipalities in the county.
And that's my problem. I think that if we're giving them money, that we should have a say as to where it goes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think we as the elected officials in these districts and communities have a responsibility to ensure that our municipal partners and the historical societies and other organizations and agencies that exist within our districts know that these funds exist, know that the opportunity for the grant funding exists, and we encourage them to apply for it. We can flood the grant application process with these organizations. It doesn't, we don't need to restrict. We should be encouraging them. We could restrict it and nobody gets spent because they don't know that it's there.
Mr. Chair, one other question that I have with Perry Wood is it's hard to believe that the Gaming Authority is the only organization or nonprofit in town that is interested in raising money for the bicentennial, for the 20th
Semi-sesquicentennial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are, we're always reading about these nonprofits and all of their accomplishments, but yet I don't see them materializing at all around town. And there was an article in the newspaper today about Infinite Erie, and which for the first time since it's been created has backtracked and said, you know what, there's not much going on with Infinite Erie. I'm surprised and I'm wondering whether not only in addition to getting government matches, whether either Erie County or you are in a position to get matches from other organizations, private organizations and nonprofits. It seems to me that that's always the desire of all of these associations, but that it never materializes until Erie Insurance decides to put a bunch of money down on the table. So, and in other words, what mechanism might there be for the private sector to match some of the funds that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think if you read these grant guidelines, you'll see that a required match of 1-to-1. It's a necessary part of the application process. So if I'm for the Buffalo Historical Society and applying for 10 grand, I have to also raise 10 grand. I think that's the opportunity for the private sector to participate. We've certainly encouraged them to do so. We've had conversations with your insurance, for example, about what we're doing, because they're getting flooded with requests, and you know, they have a process in place how they spend corporate dollars. So I think it ends up happening organically with most of these projects, but you make a great point.
Well, I was just thinking, that as far as council's concerned, they could condition. If there's not a majority on council that wants to approve of this, they could either approve of a lesser amount, or they could condition the payment on, obtaining private contributions up to a certain amount. I don't know if that would be doable from your standpoint.
Wow, I'm trying to think. Can I, so I'm trying to keep them in order. Mr. Copeland, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm just curious if Councilman Bale has actually read the grant application that Ecker wrote up, because it is quite restrictive in terms of the types of entities that can apply, which municipalities and 501s like the historical societies. And it further restricts the types of activities that can be done. And I thought that was a pretty sober, responsible grant application. Those guidelines that were written that functionally apply the same restrictions that Councilman Bale is requesting.
Ms. Shalman?
What Tom spoke about is exactly what was discussed during budget. That we would hope that some of the people would step up and put the money in for this versus coming to county government for it. But the one thing that I had a question about and wanted to ask you about is in your resolution number 33 in 2025, November 20th, 2025. It says that whereas the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority has agreed to match Erie County funds. Now, we hadn't heard anything about that, and it's like we had said we would do it if you'll match us. And I don't know where that came
I think it was in anticipation of this conversation. The last administration was interested in spending $250,000 on the semi-Saskatoon.
I think Mr. Chair, I think personally, the county does want to be a partner in this. We're just not sure if we want to be a partner of the $250,000. If there's a way, like Tom had mentioned, we get other partners involved and we can take our share, cut it down to 100,000, 125,000. We're doing a little due diligence on our way, and then we're all in this together, and we're not quarter of a million on our, then with your match, $500,000 is a lot of money. And I don't know, I can honestly say I did not read the draft or anything of where the money exactly is going or how it's going to be utilized in every community. But I know at this point, we're starting to get to crunch time too. And mine's got to be made up, but we want to be a partner. It's just not sure it's to the tune of $250,000.
Anyone else? All right. Move on to the next slide. Resolution number 20. Resolution number 2026, approval of redevelopment assistance capital grant application with the cooperation agreement among the redevelopment authority of the county of Erie. Anyone here to speak on that?
I talked to Ms. Majid, she sent me a message just now, she had a name emergency, and I think she may talk to a couple.
Okay,
I could speak just because I've done these before, if that would help.
okay.
We're a pass through.
Yeah.
They need to have a municipal sponsor, and in this case, the RDA works on these projects throughout the region. This is really procedural, right?
Yep.
Just a pass through, but you still need to approve that.
Anyone else? All right. Resolution number 2026, approval of the redevelopment assistance capital grant act of, is that the one I just read? Sorry.
It's two separate.
Two separate ones.
Right.
In cooperation agreement amongst Erie County General Authority, Julia House and the County of Erie. Felt like they don't do.
One more thing, Mr. Chair, these have already been approved too by the
Mhm.
governor's office. So I mean, these awards, those terminations were already made.
Yeah, these are just, yeah,
Yeah.
procedural situations.
Mr. Chairman. Yes. Tom, did you have a chance to look at that cooperation agreement with regards to Julia House?
I'm sorry, did you say you?
Did you have a chance to look at it?
I have not, no. They're pretty standard. Was one attached to the resolution?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I had a concern about
Yeah, it's a standard form.
And-
Statement.
that the county would be on the hook for things that weren't covered under the grant if the state determined.
Yeah, that's a standard.
How do we go about recoup, if that did happen, how do we recoup our, let's say that they complete this project, the state says, hey, you did $1 million in stuff that was not allowable with the grant, and now the county has to reimburse that $1 million. We can go after the grantee, but can you get blood from a stone if there's no?
No, there really isn't much recourse. The county and the general authority would have to anticipate that. The money would be doled out over time, and they'd have to make sure that the money's being spent properly. I've never seen an overrun where the state said no.
I'm just questioning if the
But
county would be on the hook.
It's
a good question.
And it's also the redevelopment authorities, they receive their portion of it in order to monitor that process and ensure that it's
If I
compliant.
may, Mr. Chair, only Charlie, only because I've done a few of these, start to finish. What will happen is they'll submit a PR, a payment request, and they'll submit a numerous number of those throughout the project. Each individual payment request is then vetted with the OB office budget of the state. The state will either approve or deny based on whether or not the necessary paperwork's been submitted. So that, it has never happened where you get to the end of the project and then there's been a determination that something that you did a year ago was ineligible. They were not,
As you go.
right, it's paid out as you go.
It's still a good question.
I just would think that if it wasn't possible, it wouldn't be included, but it's included, so it's possible.
Anyone else? Discussion on that? Right. Number 5, resolution number 2026, approving the annual budget of the Erie Area Council of Governments for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2026. Anyone speak on that?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yep.
Megan was thoughtful to remember that we needed to remember to approve this every year. And having been appointed as the liaison, though not having attended meetings, I've been doing some research. And I think that it seems to be a simple procedure thing that we do every year, that we approve this. And I'm starting to have some concerns. We've got an organization that is over 50% of their budget is wages. The county pays, I don't have the numbers in front of me, roughly 30 to 35% of the total costs. If you assume city and Mill Creek voters being roughly a third of the electorate, that means that 50-some% of their budget is funded just by the taxpayers of the city and Mill Creek. And I'm starting to wonder what kind of results we're getting. Their website right now shows that they're operating on a plan that was established in 2016, a decade ago, that was intended to last for 2 years. Most of their forms still have the former director, Jessica Haran, being like the contact for everything. And I'm just starting to wonder what's going on. And I understand like the bulk purchases that they're doing, the bulk bidding for all of the different municipalities. but like 5 out of 12 of the bids that they put out, they got no bids on. And I'm not whipping the vote to say no. I'm not saying that we shouldn't participate in this, but to not have the current executive director here talking on the topic, I don't think that we should just have a blanket just give them the vote. I'm a little concerned. There does not seem to be a lot of activity there. In 2016, they were having trainings for local electeds. They were doing symposiums and those kind of things. And it was definitely more of a space where these municipalities were working together. And I'm starting to feel like the municipalities have gone away from using the cog a lot, but the cog continues to exist. And I just have some concerns there.
Yeah.
Council on the table there.
No.
I think it might be a good idea to keep it in committee. It'd be nice to bring in the executive director and have some conversations and try to figure out. I'm trying to remember exactly what our contribution is, somewhere around $33,000, which is nominal in a $545 million budget, but still a pretty good chunk of change. And I'd like to make sure that, look, I think most of my frustration in this space is it has a really good opportunity to do great things to establish a more regional identity and really work together as Erie County. And then when it's not that, it's like, what are we doing here? And I think it's worth a conversation.
So is there a motion? Well, are we doing?
No, that would be
Suggestion?
We would just, I think just about that. He would move the table if he wanted to at the upcoming meeting.
At the meeting? That's what, that's for the choice of my head, something now, so.
Who was the previous liaison to the COG before me?
It was me.
Did you have good conversations, and what's your impressions? I'm really new. I haven't even gone to one of their meetings yet, but I've been doing some deep digging into it, and I have
It's a
apprehension.
waste of time for county government.
I think it could be amazing, but
You could do
it's
something
not
with it,
right
but
now.
Their biggest thing is all the bulk sales on whatever they purchase. Municipalities go together and get it, they get that at a better price. Nothing that pertains to Erie County. Erie County government.
I think there's a good argument that the Erie County could function as the cog, and Erie County could itself direct and plan for bulk purchases for all the municipalities. Like, we're already doing a lot of assistance to the municipalities, and we should, right? And I look at it and go, well, wait, maybe we should be doing this anyways. I'm just wondering if we're getting our value or if we're paying salaries.
Mr. Chair, I'm not prepared to weigh in on whether or not the county should pick up bulk purchases of salt for the roads or anything like that, but I will say that the history of the Council of Governments is a very good, very positive one. From Ed Lesser to Jessica Haran, that organization was well run and provided a lot of very positive support for our municipal governments historically. When I saw this resolution on the agenda, I also went and at least started to poke around the COG website to see what was happening. And to Mr. Copeland's point, there's a dearth of activity, to be kind. And there are basically the only thing that has been updated. It appears on the website, the only thing that's been updated since Ms. Haran's exit is the name change of the executive director. Everything else links to old data. And if you were to fall across this website in any other context, you would assume that it's an organization that does not doesn't do anything. So I think, you know, come Tuesday, I would support a motion to table this only so that, one, we could find out more about what's going on, but also, so we might play a more important role in helping shape some expectations for the council of governments. Continue to participate in funding this initiative, because it does have a long and positive history.
Anyone else? Right. Number 6, resolution 2026 approving the financial statements and independent auditors report of the Erie Area Council of Governments for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2024 and 2023. Resolution number 2026, approving the 2026 solicitor contract for the office of Erie County Sheriff. You want to speak on that? Number 8, resolution number 2026, calling for the suspension of Erie County's participation in civil and/or criminal immigration detention at the Erie County Prison, and requesting removal of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, as an authorized user under the county's intergovernmental service agreement for housing federal detainees.
Mr. Chair, as the author of the resolution, I request that we amend our agenda and replace this resolution with an ordinance as recommended by our solicitor. The ordinance is of the same spirit and language as the resolution that you've all read and are familiar with. There's been some conversation in the last couple of days about the administration seeking some additional time to contemplate how all of this gets carried out. Should we address it or should we approve it? And the movement of a resolution to an ordinance moves this to 2 reads, which means that we would have this come up on 2 separate council agendas this coming Tuesday and theoretically the following Tuesday as well for a final read, giving the administration the extra time that they desired, and also moving this into a window that includes as my understanding, some additional community conversations around this topic that may better help inform everybody's decision making on the topic. So while I stand by the spirit and mission of this as its author, I request that we replace this resolution with the ordinance that was provided by our solicitor this afternoon.
Chair, thank you, Jim. Yeah, the biggest change is making it stronger and making it sound like what it is, namely a local law, an ordinance, not in the request form, which you usually find a resolution. Not only that, with an ordinance, we get 2 readings and the administration gets 2 weeks. With the resolution, we are according to the administrative code, we can pass this Tuesday. The other thing is it will give the public an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to become familiar with what's on our agenda and give them, again, the opportunity to first have knowledge of it, and if they want to participate in a hearing, to be able to do that. The last time we rushed something through was with the Gannon Library issue, where we passed that in 3 days and got quite a bit of feedback or pushback from the public that was upset that it happened so quickly. This is a popular issue, but it might be also a divisive one. And so giving the public the opportunity for a couple of weeks to maybe want to participate, I think is politically astute or smart. The resolution would give us that, the ordinance does. And then the only other changes is that, when I drafted it, I was more forceful of believing that it should be looked at as the law, an ordinance to pass by council. And those are the only two, that was in my head when I worked with Jim to try to change some of the things.
Good.
Now, I think that the administration, if they want to weigh in on this, either Deanna or administrator could talk with the council. I had a couple conversations.
Mr. Chair, if we could, first of all, I appreciate the willingness to pivot because it does better align with some of our concerns. Is that this is a big issue and we do need to be thoughtful as we move forward. As it was mentioned before, this is a human issue. It's not a monetary issue. However, if you move forward without some consideration to the budget is now out of balance. And so we do need to have those conversations. We need to figure out what are the next steps if we do move forward with this. What does the administration have to do? What does that look like to the prison's budget? And we just need to be thoughtful as we move forward, and also give the public a chance to express their comments.
I'd like to reiterate that, the ordinance, does not, fully separate from the agreement with the U.S. Marshals. We're just asking for the, ICE and Border Patrol to be, taken out. That was an amendment that was put into the agreement. And so, Colin has informed me that makes up approximately a third of that line.
That's correct. So it's still a significant amount.
It's still significant, but and we will have, I'm sure, much discussion and debate on the topic, but I share Ms. Perkins' sentiment that this is not an issue that we can consider on financial outcomes. That we have to figure out a way to do this without a financial benefit from what has amounted to little more than unconstitutional human trafficking.
And I agree, but we also need to make sure that we don't leave it. We have to have a balanced budget, so we still have to address the very short term issue. It's not a reason why you should.
I guess the other point, and I'll look for some clarification on this, that item in the budget, I mean, those are not guaranteed revenues. Those are based on our expected revenues from the federal government for our participation. So even if there were fewer trials at the Erie County Courthouse, we would come in under what that expectation was. And year over year, that revenue number increased in this past budget from the previous budget because the last county executive had made it known that he wanted to increase the ICE detention holdings in Erie County Prison as a form of revenue generation. So I think I think at the end of the day, we'll be much closer to revenue neutral and still be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, those are the things that require just a little bit of time to work through.
Yep.
Because at least from a preliminary look, we are looking at likely $500,000 to $600,000 imbalance. So that's a large enough number that we just need to look at it and say, okay, if we're going to make this decision, because typically when you make a decision that affects the budget, you also have to, it can't just be one side of the ledger. What are we doing to counter this? Sure. And again, that's not saying that this is something we should do for the sake of the revenue plan. But you have a budget that you pass that you now have to reopen, essentially, and we have to fix the short-term issue.
Calling that number accurate, 500,000-600,000.
Yeah, so in 2025, the federal reimbursement line was budgeted at 800,000. That was assuming and the notes are actually outdated here that I'm looking at it now. 800,000 2025. That line item was raised to 1,150,000 in the 2026 budget. That was to account for the ICE detainee money that would be coming in, and it said that there was a rate change, but I'm seeing that the rate change was also in the notes in 2025. So I want to determine if the rate change actually increased in 2025, 2026 from $75 to $95 $99 a day. Right now, that budget increase line was about 350,000 that we're seeing as it is appearing in the 2026 budget. If you would have to determine how much is coming from an actual rate increase and what percentage is really coming in from from the ICT&E money. If council does recall, back in June of 2025, we had a conversation about if we were to accept ICE detainee money to the tune of around 400 some thousand that council decided to not accept. So it would be a reasonable assumption that it's going to be between 350,000 to about 500,000, depending on what percentage is really coming from the ICE detainees.
I can tell you what was billed in 2025, it's 571,000.
Okay.
So-
Sir, hold on, this is not open public comment forum, he's a member of the administration, you're not a member?
No,
Okay, I just was clarifying that, I just wanted to make sure, we do have 2 meetings coming up, we'll be able to.
But I'll just add one more quick
Yeah.
point, Mr. Chair. We do want to have these conversations sooner rather than later. We've already indicated as early as next week, we're ready to meet. We
Okay,
just want to make sure that if we make a decision, we do it properly.
And Mr. Chair, I advised them that I'm, in fact, in my memo, I'm willing to meet with them, but we should have a council representative, perhaps Jim.
yeah. Maybe if anybody else wants to come along too, we could have 1 or 2 more, that's fine.
It's also, Mr. Chair, it's also important to determine how this would be funded, depending on council's will, I'm assuming we would decide to pull from the general fund.
We can make that decision if that was what we came to, but yeah, for sure.
Mr. Chairman, so have you had preliminary conversations with the federal partners about this, all right, or you haven't met with them at all yet?
Well, we haven't, no, I mean, we just saw them, so that's why we would like a little more time just to have these conversations, also meet the council. That's why we requested some time.
Okay, so we have no idea. I mean, there's a possibility that if we decide to withdraw part of the contract, they can pull the entire contract. So a possibility.
Either party can end the contract with 30 days.
I just think that there's a lot that, the possibility, the ICE aside, I don't think that if that contract goes away completely, that services the federal courthouse and what that would mean for a disruption of services and people talking about due process, you would affect due process actually at the federal level because those individuals would have to be transported. There's a large ripple effect and it's not just in there. And I guess when I'm looking at, trying to, if we're going to put forward an ordinance, it should solve a problem or a perceived problem, whichever you view it as, but by doing this and eliminating ICE or eliminating detention in our facility, what does it solve?
It takes us out of the larger cog of unconstitutional activity happening across our country.
I think that federal immigration the federal law enforcement is still going to enforce immigration laws. Those people are still going to be detained in one way or another. They're still going to be housed. They're just not going to be housed in Erie County, which the only issue that causes is an issue for taxpayers. Because some other county's gonna step up and say, by all means.
Well, we're the only
We're gonna
ones in
take-
Western Pennsylvania outside of Allegheny
Well,
County.
I'm just saying there's a larger effect there. I think that,
I think the larger effect is participating in what appears to be an unconstitutional.
appears to be, I guess.
Several federal judges agree with me, including those appointed by our president. So I think we stand on strong ground here. And we're at a moment of moral imperative where we need to decide where we want to be in the long view of history. Do we want to participate in this, or do we want to do what's right for the members of our?
Amen.
Represent Erie County because, I seem to remember an election in the not so, distant past that immigration was a key issue and, if I'm not mistaken, Erie County spoke in a way.
There's not a question.
Wasn't a
There's not a
reflection.
question about legal immigration enforcement. There is a question about rounding up citizens and non-citizens alike. And I'll remind you that even if someone has if someone is an illegal immigrant in this country, they still have constitutional rights in our United States.
And who do we house when these people come to Erie? Who are they that we're housing through ICE?
There are a number. Someone that was picked up
There's
in some other.
somebody that's already in the deportation process. We don't take anybody just off the street. The people that Erie County houses have already been through deportation proceedings. They are in the process of being deported. We're not taking
That's-
people off the street.
That is.
Charlie, if I could.
That is not the accurate.
Yeah.
I can quote you from the letter from a previous administration, a warden, in fact, instructing county officials on how to handle this. And give me 1 second to. Back up.
Mr. Copeland, I see you had your hand raised. Apologies.
Yeah, well,
Hold
my
on.
biggest my biggest issue is that these detainees have not been entering the deportation process. Indeed, a good many of them don't go before a judge until they reach Mount Shannon. So most of the people that we have in Erie County detention are held for 5, 6, 7 days before they're seeing a judge. That is very different than most people. If they got picked up for a crime, they have to be arraigned before a certain time frame. Like that is patently false. That the majority of them are already under deportation. They are on their way to see a judge. They're being held for a week at a time in our facility before they see a judge. And do we want the lawsuit to find out that we've been holding a citizen all this time that had never been allowed to reach out to someone to prove their citizenship? That's happened. It's happened more than a few times. There's a reason why we're one of only 3 counties that have this. We have our marshal's arrangement with the federal courthouse because it's proximity, but we are not the only county with the proximity to a federal courthouse. Most counties have said this is a bad business deal, immoral, and we don't want to be a part of it. And I would take great pride if Erie County actually said we don't want to take part in it.
The language from Deputy Warden Holman in 2014 says that we will accept I-203 order to detain forms to hold inmates for ICE Border Patrol. This form will be accompanied by the I-200 warrant of arrest form. There's no language in this about folks who have already been arraigned and ordered for deportation.
And that's from 2014.
That's from 24.
Do we not have anything that's 12 years newer? Or?
We have the actual contract, which doesn't speak, which past this agreement doesn't articulate who gets detained. It's at the will of the U.S. Marshals and ICE to bring people to us. And the only requirement we have is that we will not accept detainees using only the I-247 immigration detainer, which is someone who was if I have
Can you forward a copy of that?
sure someone who has been charged on another crime and maybe in the ICE pipeline. We're not participating in the process, at least according to this letter.
From 2014.
From 2014. I'm not aware of any updates.
That's right.
And the renewal of the contract. That's true.
Tom, as our solicitor, do you believe 2 weeks is enough there seems to be a lot of items that aren't gonna be answered. What is the total effects is if we just shut this down in 2 weeks? What's it mean for the prison itself? The employees, what's it mean for, even with the federal government, is there other counties that have possibly did this same?
Lehigh County just did it.
And what ramifications came from there?
Mr. Solicitor, do you mind if I respond? So our ordinance gives the administration 30 days to take action. The contract is very clear, very explicit about the agreement. it literally takes nothing more than an email to articulate how we would like to alter and or end the agreement. Then the US Marshals Service, ICE in this case, has 30 days to remove their detainees from our property and to move them elsewhere. At that point, we're clear.
Which
It's-
in the same breath, they could move all operations out of Erie County. All correct.
They
As
could,
part of that
they could, but
agreement.
we are, and I want to get back to your workforce question as well. But you know, if we are operating a prison based on the $99 per head of revenue that we get from the federal government, we're probably in the wrong business, right? It's not a consistent form of revenue. It's variable from year to year based on the interests of the federal government and their need to bring prisoners through the federal courthouse in Erie County. Second, I've never been a prison guard. I have friends that are prison guards. I don't know. I missed our meeting with the prison a few
And
weeks ago.
even that might be another thing, whether the warden could
But
be
I
part of the
do,
conversation.
I am aware that in at least a couple of cases where we were at capacity and these detainees were brought in, that the detainees are housed in a cell and I'll call them resident inmates, the folks that are there long-term, were displaced from their cells and put into a general population situation in the gymnasium or somewhere else that was accommodating for that. Now, I know just enough about the justice system to know that creates a volatile environment, both for the prisoners and the additional staff that's required to monitor that area. So not only are we talking about this human capital only in terms of their financial gain for the community, but we're also placing a great additional stress onto a workforce that is naturally stressed by the
I mean,
job.
You'd like to hear that from the warden himself. I mean, you can.
Very much so.
Sure.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
since there are a number of issues to be discussed, I would suggest that we go with the ordinance, place it on the agenda. If 2 weeks goes by and we're not done, we could continue. But I think, given the number of issues that have popped up, we should meet with the administration and flush them out, which would include Mr. Holm. I mean, I believe the administration is going to get most of their information from the warden as well. And let's quantify the numbers and then the issues regarding, what could the federal government do? Well, we know what the federal government could do. It could buy Greenland, unless we stop them. So of course, they could do whatever they want.
You big picture, I'm thinking too far out. If Erie County goes for some grant from the federal government and they look back and say, well, they broke a deal that we had ongoing with prior administrations back to Judy Lynch, I believe, that, and we'll just say 10 million funding for small houses. Well, we're vying for that grant, and so is
That would be
Punxsutawney, and Erie gave us a little bit of hard time, so we're gonna take that money somewhere else. I don't know. I
well.
think something's too much or not.
I think this is. Excuse me, hold on here. Well, that's always a possibility, and we can't deal with possibilities that, are really corrupt or bribes and things like that.
When I was wondering if any other counties had cut ties with
Sure, but
ICE.
sure, but you can't be silenced by the potential for adverse possibilities. If you either believe, and this is, as articulated by a few, a moral issue, and you either believe in it and you fight for it, or you shriek from potential possibilities. And I think that you have to fight for them. But that's
either
how-
way.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I truly believe this is going to 10 times increase the ICE presence in this county because they're gonna be pissed off. So there's a cost to this. but I'll be able to sleep at night. This is the right thing to do from my perspective. Like,
Hope
I
they're not
got,
coming after you.
you know, they aren't coming after me, but I bet you if I ask the people, they're not gonna tell me they want me to take a back seat and cower because I'm worried about somebody could cancel a contract, we lose.
That is
some money
empowering,
from.
that is empowering, it's reality.
Yeah, but what's right and what's wrong, man? There's things that you gotta step up
Yeah,
for and
well,
like,
there's
do something
This
about.
isn't Minnesota either, but.
Oh, man, it doesn't matter where it is. This whole country is dealing with this. This isn't about Minnesota.
Well.
We're talking about Erie County. We're housing.
Obviously it
people here.
is, this what's
No,
wrong. This-
we're housing people
This is what
here.
brought this to our agenda.
This
but
is
that's-
not Minnesota that brought this to the agenda. We've been thinking about this for a long time, but guess what? Now we have the
It's there.
opportunity to make it
Well, that's
happen.
what we're here to do, to discuss and see.
You
what-
remember that we passed an ordinance a year to refuse the $400,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not,
It's just very plausible to happen. And probably likely if this, I mean, this is ridiculous, like. I mean, you're still speaking exactly what we're fighting against. People, you're putting monetary terms on people before. You are,
Well,
I mean.
no, you gotta
you're
be
putting monetary
realistic,
terms of Erie County in
realistic
front.
all the way through. You just can't be narrow sighted, you gotta look at the whole picture. That's all I'm saying.
Lynn?
I agree that we should change it to an ordinance and move it forward until we have all the answers that we need, including conversation with the feds, neighboring counties, with the, warden, everybody involved. And if we can't get the answers that we need, then table it.
You know, this is how this is, I anticipate this is gonna work. Yes, we're given this time frame, but if we get to that point and you don't have all of the answers that you want, or you do not like the answers, it's still probably coming to the table for a vote.
Same.
I'm just,
Just saying we have to do our due diligence.
100%.
Chris, you still want a couple council people in your meetings?
I would, because I'm trying to separate, there's a lot of issues here, right? I'm looking at it strictly from procedural point of view. This is a decision you all are gonna make, but you hand us a budget to expect us to administer. I'm gonna need to know how that's balanced, right? And we need to talk to the board. Need to know, does this affect staffing? Is there potentially a union issue? These are a lot of questions, right? Are we gonna balance this by cutting wages in prison? I don't know. None of us know as we sit here. So these short-term questions do need to be answered. And that's what, so I think if there's a couple of you that can join us.
I will let you know by tomorrow. Couple that I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Tom's gonna be involved too,
Now,
on the legal.
So just for clarification, number 8, this resolution will be an ordinance on Tuesday's agenda. And everything else is moving forward. Things could be subject to tabling on Tuesday, but as it stands right now, everything's moving forward. And number 8 is moving forward as the ordinance.
First review.
Right.
and Jim, you could at the meeting amend the, ask to amend the agenda. To remove the one ordinance in place of the other one. Okay. As you did here, as you indicated you would do here.
We need to do that again. Tom, we can't just replace that here and move forward.
No, we should do it formal.
Okay.
So are you moving forward with this as a resolution and striking and adding the other one, or I guess I need to understand that.
We'll amend on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And place the new ordinance, so stay on as a resolution.
Correct.
That's the you sure you want.
So amend the resolution. So amend the resolution number so and substitute therefore the ordinance number such and such.
Okay, so what you see right now is going to go away and the new one is going to be on there as the ordinance.
Yes.
And then the language that you provided for the ordinance is going to be on the published agenda, will be published tomorrow.
You're gonna publish tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, then no, let's withdraw it now. It hasn't gone to the public yet.
That was my original motion.
Yeah, why doesn't council, if council agrees to withdraw and substitute my motion, then we could just put that, or my ordinance, excuse me, on the agenda, the one that I prepared with Jim's help. And then we wouldn't have to do any amendments at next week's hearing meeting.
Great.
Mr. Copeland?
Good.
Oh,
I think we agree.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
I don't know if anybody's here to speak on to Patrick today, but analysis of general fund unassigned fund balance.
I could speak to it if council would enact all the actions that have been discussed today. You have this amount left. I'm flipping to the page. Glad to field any questions you have about Patrick's not available today.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Jim.
Mr. Copeland's not here today, so I'll call the personnel meeting to order. Number one, ordinance number 12, 2026 general fund budget revised revenue and expenditures of $15,513 for change in the public defender position that had a first read on 1/27/26. Anyone questions, concerns? Nobody here from the, I think that we got those answers last time. We'll go ahead and move that forward. Number two, ordinance number 13, 2026 general fund budget revised revenue and expenditures of $31,888 for 2026 appointed official salary ordinance, first assistant public defender. Anyone?
Yeah, public defender is here.
Oh, he was hiding back there.
I flipped
You were blocked by multiple people. You should sit up front now. Did you have any, anything to add or
anything to add, were there any?
council, anything? I thought we pretty much answered the dealer. I didn't want to speak for you though, so.
No, I appreciate
it.
Thank you.
Colin's big head was, I'm sorry, he was. So two will move forward as well. Number three, ordinance number 14, 2026, third, 2026 general fund budget supplemental appropriation of $41,618 to eliminate the position of assistant public defender and create the position of trial chief deputy. Same goes for that one. Any questions from council? Nothing new to add. All right, we'll move that forward. Number four, ordinance number 15, 2026 general fund budget revised revenue and expenditures of $17,768 and waiver of the human resources code or change of position from full-time to part-time in the county executive department. This also had a first read on 1/27. The administration have anything for that? Does anyone else have questions on that? Does anyone else have an issue with a person that's being moved to part-time, being paid twice as much? Because that's what I see, and I'm just asking. I don't know how we're justifying that.
I mean,
Or somebody's being paid twice as much as the position was before and only working half the time or part-time. That's my understanding. Is that not correct? That's correct? HR?
Yeah, the position was changed to part-time. Position is budgeted at the same annualized salary, and the hours did change from full-time to part-time.
So
so
there's,
same rate, not same now. So they're only working 20 hours or whatever they.
Yeah, this was budgeted at 20,000.
Yeah.
So. And then found somebody who would do the job for 40 hours a week.
But double the salary.
No,
No,
the salary rate remains the same from the full-time position. But the person is only working half the amount of time, so they're only gonna receive half the
Yeah,
salary.
they took the hourly
It's-
from the full-time and then just did it times the number of hours that they were actually.
The annualized salary is still whatever, it was $28,000. I don't have the exact number. But the person is working half the amount of hours, so
Which is-
they're no longer working 37 and a half, they're working 20 hours a week. And the annual salary
the
for that is
annual-
28,000.
So it is.
So
double.
yes,
It's the same amount.
that's what I'm.
budget effect.
Annualized, it's
working-
the same amount, hourly, it is
Right.
different.
Yeah, the issue is trying to find somebody who's gonna work a 40 or 37 and a half hours a week at 28,000 was a challenge. We found somebody who would do that job. But we had to trade the hours back. So from a budget standpoint, it has no effect on the budget. It's 28,000.
Know what they're making, but I mean, I'd love to come in at half the time for the same amount of pay that some, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, but.
For reference, that increases their hourly rate from $14.82 an hour to 28.
That's what I mean.
That's twice as much, that's what I'm saying. So there's not just a change in the position and the part-time, it's a change in what they're being paid, $28 an hour as opposed to 14. I think that's,
And one more thing, in addition to that, the health benefits, this person will be paying the part-time rate for health benefits, so there is.
saving the firm.
And there is a savings on the fringe line because they're not paying the full-time rate for the health insurance, they're not paying the part-time rate.
And has there been any significant change to the job description? I didn't see anything to the scope of work, I mean, so it's the same scope of work? There was no change, correct?
Yeah, correct, the scope of work rating is the same.
So we're doubling the pay for the same job that somebody else was doing. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyone else, council?
I agree.
All right.
There would be a couple of ways to read that portion. Namely that the person who's working 37 and a half hours didn't need to work that long to begin with. Or that the job isn't worth it to begin with, or not necessary. But I hear what you're saying, it's a different change. I don't believe I've ever seen a reduction from full to part-time
Any
at
salary?
the same wages. It is in effect a $28,000 increase
Yes,
is what it is for the position.
I guess we can move it forward and we can vote it up or down. Number 5. 2026 general fund budget supplemental appropriation of 47,141 for elimination of internet and social media position and creation of the community engagement officer position in the Department of Administration, and waiver of section 9 of the Human Resources Code relating to salary of the new hire. Anyone like to speak on that? This is the first time we're seeing this. This wasn't up for, this is the first read, will be a first read.
So this was discussed in an earlier meeting. It's a different dollar amount. This is going back to when it was public information officer. We redesigned that job description. This is a different role this person takes on. We're also trying to identify areas where we can take, so for example, this was a vacancy. We identified what we thought was some overlap. So now some of those job duties would be rolled into this community information officer position. Which is why this is a lower dollar amount than our first request. We're taking vacant position, putting some of that work on this position.
Well, I'm looking at the rationale and I'm seeing, I see the 47,141, but I also see 85,000 because is this, it's 85,000 is the salary, but some of that is coming from the grant out of the health department, so it's not the full 85,000. Is that how that's
No, that's
working?
not
Or
where it's coming from. It's coming from a vacancy. So it's not grant, it's not dependent.
So there won't be any grant money used for that position?
No.
Vacancy from that too.
I guess I'm just a little 85,000, is a big clock. I don't know if anybody wants to entertain a lower amount.
Well, I can tell you what I would be amenable to. I mean, this position was highly contested under the last administration. I'm not gonna choose to be a hypocrite. My colleagues or some of my colleagues decide to be, they can. I thought this position was warranted under the last administration, except we decided to cut that position. Not we, council, because I didn't vote for it. Council decided to cut that position and remove an individual who was in it. I mean, we don't typically, when we get rid of positions, we do that for empty positions, but we decided that we, as a council, would get rid of a position and remove a person, actually terminated them. So I would be agreeable to bring back that position at the rate of the person that was terminated. And that's where I'm willing to go. Because if we need it, which I said we did, and now we're still saying we need it, but now we're saying we need it and we need to basically double the salary.
Anybody
Mr.
else?
Chair. Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with the position. $85,000 does seem astronomical, to be honest with you. I know some different responsibilities will be involved with this hire. Possibly amend this amount to a lower figure. I'm open to that, if council's open to that. I don't know about the 47, if there's more responsibilities being added to this position, I would leave it open to conversation of possibly amending the amount.
I agree with that, amending the amount, go with it.
And we can even think about it and discuss it at caucus on Tuesday also.
It's an ordinance.
It's in
so-
first reading.
Oh, so we have
time.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, it's not, I don't see it in the ordinance itself, but there is a question about eliminating the IT services that we fought for as county council and already had. So I don't know, and I can't tell who's paying for this position.
It's under the administration. It's basically the public information officer with a new title.
Is that correct? Yeah, and also I want to confirm that the services that council's IT services survives this ordinance. And it, I have heard discussion about that not being the case.
Are you saying we should ask which IT positions being eliminated?
Yeah, I think it should be confined to the county executive so that it doesn't interfere with council's IT people.
It is, Tom. It's a position under the administration IT that's being eliminated.
It's not court IT, it's admin IT.
Yeah.
We fall under court IT.
Yeah, well, we have our own, we work with the court, and I think we should make sure we preserve that as our own independent source of communicating, especially the issues that we have at the Board of Elections. I don't anticipate any problem with this administration, but it's a lot easier for our Board of Election people to facilitate and communicate with the public. And we're coming up with probably a crazy time this fall, so we should make sure that that's opened up and preserved for the election board.
Or separate branch of government, we should have a separate voice.
Okay.
Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So,